Welcome everyone to this episode of the AskJasonGelios show. I'm Jason Gelios, Michigan Realtor, and I'm going to be talking about the environmental dangers that are in old houses. And you know, these are things that are common in older homes. And so there are new laws, new guidelines in place to protect home buyers from purchasing these types of homes. However, these are things that you must be aware of, and I got 7 of them that I'm going to share with you right now, okay? So the first one is asbestos. Everybody's heard of asbestos, right? Okay, you know, they've said that it typically is okay if it's untouched. If you have, for example, tile on the floor or the backsplash or wherever in the home, and if it gets damaged, if it gets crumbled, if it gets airborne, okay, that's not a good thing. And so, you know, you want to make sure that you are aware that asbestos could be in the home. Asbestos was used, by the way, because it was remarkably durable, and it has the ability to actually insulate and be fireproof, which was pretty cool, okay? However, the 70s and 80s, it was determined that asbestos caused health defects. So that's one, okay? And where can you find this? Again, old floor tiles, ceiling tiles, roof shingles as well, flashing, siding, pipe cement, even the joint compound used on seams between sheetrock, which you see that in older homes as well, okay? If it's present, it doesn't mean that it's, you know, it's bad, but if it starts crumbling and gets airborne where you're breathing it, that's an issue. That's why the special crews come in to remove asbestos. They wear suits and they actually circulate the air out of the house so it's not lingering, okay? Number 2, lead-based paint. So everyone knows about lead-based paint. If you purchase a home that was built prior to 1978, there's probably a form that you signed. There should be a form, a lead paint disclosure, stating that the home potentially has lead-based paint, probably does have lead-based paint. Maybe the former owner is aware or not aware of it. Okay. Now, lead-based paint, if it's encased, enclosed, it's not a health problem. However, when you have peeling paint, chipping paint, cracking, that's not good, okay? So that will need immediate attention. And by the way, if you have children, think about if they're touching windowsills, door frames, railings, banisters. If someone painted a railing, which is common in older homes, in many homes actually, then that could be an issue. They're touching that and they're touching their face, right? You know how kids do it. Number 3, lead in drinking water. So when you think of how for centuries, drinking water pipes were actually, they did a large installation of lead pipes. I think it was the early 1800s, and what happened was it was preferred because over, I believe, iron, right? Because it was easier to bend, and so they had this lead, and they said, okay, you know, this is a lot easier to bend and put into homes and in areas. By 1920, the United States actually started moving away from using lead-based paint. However, they were still using lead pipes, lead drinking water pipes, through the 70s and the 80s as well. And then they started not doing that. And in recent years, they're actually using plastic versus copper, which is kind of cool. It's more efficient. You see that in new build homes as we're in 2023 right now, okay? Number 4, mold and mildew. So mold, I have seen mold happen in areas where there was water that got to it and then moisture. Many times it's in the attic, if the attic's not properly vented, or in the crawl space under the house where it's not properly vented. And then, you know, other areas as well. But when you have water that comes into the home and it's not drying, that's not good. That means that moisture builds up and mold happens, and it just runs rampant, right? Many older homes have cracked foundations, leaky pipes. I've seen that often. I've showed many older homes, older homes, and you know, that is a way where that water can get in and cause mold and issues, okay? Number 5 is carbon monoxide. So carbon monoxide is basically odorless, which is scary. Doesn't have any color to it, and it's formed by the incomplete combustion of fuels. Okay, and by the way, I'm not a science expert. I'm not a health environmental expert. I'm a realtor who pulled up some great information for you that I wanted to share. So that's my disclaimer there. I'm not a scientist of any kind or environmental expert. Okay, for carbon monoxide, you want to have the carbon monoxide detectors on every floor. Have them close to where it will go off if there's a threat, and you will be aware of it. Carbon monoxide, by the way, normally vents out of a house. They have a vent that goes out of the house. Many times furnaces, I believe boilers too, right? They had a vent that pushes that outside of the house. But when you have high concentration, right, you get dizziness, you get confusion, and then it's usually followed by death. Okay, that's not very good. Matter of fact, carbon monoxide is one of the most common causes of poisoning deaths in the US. Pretty scary. Number 6 is radon. So, the home inspectors that I've come in contact with, they have a special test that they can run, typically in the basement, and they leave a machine there for, I think it's a day or 2 or 3, depending on the home, the property, and it reads how much radon is present. And there's going to be radon in homes. It's in the ground. You really can't escape it. But if you have high levels of radon, that is an issue, and you want to have your foundation checked. Look for any cracks or holes where the radon underground, I believe that's where it travels, is getting into your basement. Okay, so the good news is that older homes typically have more ventilation than newer homes. I'm not sure why, but again, radon is just something that you should be aware of. And then number 7 is underground storage tanks. So large metal containers buried underground, they can be used to store fuel, depending on the area you're in. Okay, I have some rural areas by me where they do have these underground. It's pretty interesting, actually. But you want to make sure that you don't have those underground storage tanks, and that might be more rare. But however, older homes, I don't want to say they weren't regulated as much compared to newer homes, but they just built these homes without really looking as in-depth as they do these days. These days, when they build a home, I mean, gosh, they really look at everything about the land and the home and the area and all that, okay? And we have the technology to do that, to where back in the day, they would just, build these houses. So these are 7 environmental dangers that could come with owning an older home. Do you own an older home? Have you had issues? Have you had to add these things? If not, are you going to add these things like the carbon monoxide detector that I mentioned, or have the radon test conducted by a reputable home inspector? Did this inspire you at all to kind of think, okay, maybe I should look at my house and determine if it is safe or not? Definitely share your thoughts in the comments. Otherwise, I'm Jason Gelios, Michigan Realtor, and I appreciate you watching this episode.